Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Okay, good afternoon. My name is Marcus Moore from Picture the Homeless. And we're going to get started with the run of show here today. So, right now, who we have right now coming up, we have OH1 staff and All Street Journal and Robs. Okay. No, not there. Okay, not there. All right. Sorry about that. All right. All right. So I'm going to open this up right here. Right. So, Homeless Rights Month began 1 year ago with a call from direct impacted advocates to stop the city assault on homeless rights. This July, as little as changed, advocates are directly impacted New Yorkers are once again joining together for a month of action, declaring July Homelessness Rights Month in New York City. So give yourselves a hand. Okay. So now, who we have coming up next, right? We're gonna call on, I believe, Valerie Reyes.
Awesome.
Yes. Woo! All right.
Hi everybody, my name is Valerie Reyes Jimenez. I am the New York City community organizer with Housing Works. I am also someone who is formerly homeless, and I am also someone who is helping people who are homeless today find homes. One of the, I happen to be a mother, right? And I believe that in order to raise appropriate electeds, you have to treat them like children, right? Because when a child does something right, you praise them and you give them what they need, right? But once a child or a government official doesn't do what's right or what's necessary, they need to get scolded and they need to bear the consequences. And with that, what I'm trying to say is that I'm a person that I have relationships with elected officials. I go and I speak with them, but then I can also hit the streets and organize against them. Because as a citizen of this great city, I feel that I'm not the only person that deserves the best that life has to offer. That goes for anybody who's an inhabitant of the city, whether you're documented or not. If you're a New Yorker, you're a New Yorker, right? And I gotta tell you, I'm not feeling good today, and I wanted to stay home, but I started to think about, what happens when you're out in the street and you're not feeling good, you don't have anywhere to go, or you're in a shelter and you have to get kicked out at a certain time because you can't stay there all day. Where's the dignity in that? Where's the dignity in the sweeps? Our mayor really touts and pats himself on the back all the time and talks about dignity. And there is no dignity. There is no swagger when you're walking down the street, when you have to sleep on a corner under a scaffolding. There's none of that, right? So, how many offices does one person need? How many homes does one person need, right? So I just heard, I think everybody heard now that by, Pearl Street down there's some offices, right? That HRA and the city's renting. And you know what? Anybody does the math, and you know what? I gotta put my sign down because I had to write it down. And what I find fascinating is that, so the city has this space. They signed a 20-year lease. This was back in, 2017 or something. A 20-year lease, and they have almost 200,000 square feet. And we know that the building, they asked for $45 to $41 a square foot. So if you do the math, just basic math, we're talking about almost $9 million of rent. So why can't we have that kind of investment for people who are homeless, people that don't have a place to call home, right? Why can't we invest in that? And I have to say that, when we talk about safe havens and stabilization beds, we don't want you to count the beds that are in the system, in the pipeline already, that aren't even being used right now, right? We want you to start counting the beds that are needed, and not just beds. We're talking about the stabilization beds. They should be for one person only. The only people that should have somebody else in their room is because they have their partner with them. Nobody else should be having to share a room with another stranger. I wouldn't want a room with anybody, with just anybody, because the city says so. That's not cool. And anyway, we have other people here. If you're homeless right now, we see you. We want to help you. We're going to continue to fight for you, and we're not going to stop. So I thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time out on a beautiful Sunday.
All right, that's Valerie. Okay, so when I say homeless, I want y'all guys in the back to point and say rights. All right? Homeless, rights. Homeless, rights. Homeless, rights. I want you to point at the camera and say homeless, rights. Homeless, rights. Homeless, rights. Okay, so coming up next, we have Neighbors Together. Okay, coming from Neighbors Together, we have Charisma White. Is she here with us? Oh, okay, so coming up right now, and I know this person is with us. Let's bring up our brother Felix Guzman from Vocal, New York. Woo!
So hello everybody, my name is Felix Guzman. I'm formerly incarcerated and formerly homeless, and I am here today once again to demand interventions for our unhoused neighbors who are languishing in inhumane conditions where their most basic needs are not being met. Safety, food, cleanliness, privacy, and dignity. Because someone is unhoused doesn't mean that they are not worth having their dignity maintained. My experience in shelter was traumatizing to say it best, and my survival was death-defying to put it in the realest way I can. When I entered shelter, I did so with the expectancy that I would not be commodified and exploited and endure all the trauma the body, mind, and soul could handle. My story is like and unlike those of many others. I became homeless as a result of the trauma of seeing my building house a cluster site housing program. There's a serious disconnect where people are left to fend for themselves without resources and community supports in place in a city that is supposed to be the capital of the world. There needs to be accountability for how services are rendered so that people can feel human. In shelter, the staff treats you as though you are without options because, quite frankly, you are. There needs to be more transparency around the process of moving a person from being unhoused to permanently housed in safe, affordable housing. Residing in shelter is not supposed to be forever. People are supposed to be passing through, not left for what seems like an eternity in conditions that exacerbate health issues and create new ones. For all the taxpayer monies contracted shelter providers are paid, every shelter should be outfitted with Wi-Fi, central air, and enough meals to feed everyone that is hungry as they need so. For 60,000 single adults at any point in time to reside in shelter and many more on the streets, it is troubling when folks would rather be on the street than accepting a bed in the shelter system. But what is the alternative when living on the streets results in getting caught in a sweep where your belongings are trashed and you are offered a bed in a safe haven shelter at best or directed to a shelter by default? People should have a right to dignified housing options, safety, privacy, and support. The city needs to do more to bridge the gap in connection to services. Whether residing in shelter or unhoused in the street, people are left to cope with the experience of being unhoused with few options other than self-medication with alcohol and drugs and or medication. That's not right. It is important to remember that the unhoused are our neighbors, the most vulnerable amongst us, who require compassionate intervention and care. There is a need for harm reduction services. There is a need for a least restrictive point of contact. There is a need for a healthy community to be placed around those who need the most holistic of intervention. It is important to remember that if you haven't already been impacted by homelessness, you aren't too far removed from ever being so, and as such, it is important that we in solidarity march together during Homeless Rights Month. Thank you for your time, and I can't wait to march with you all in solidarity. Thank you.
So before we go any further, I just want people to understand that homeless New Yorkers are tired of getting negative results. Yes. We have seen these same old tactics over the years with administration, claiming and romancing us into meetings and agencies, but very little work has been done when it comes to putting people into permanent housing. Yes. Okay? So when I say homeless, just say rights. Homeless, rights. Homeless, rights. So who we have coming up next? Do we have Andre Ward here with us this afternoon? And so we understand, sure, come on, brother, come on up.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming out this afternoon for this very important time. My name is Andre Ward. I'm the Associate Vice President of the David Rothenberg Center for Public Policy at the Fortune Society. We at the Fortune Society have been providing supportive, emergency, and permanent housing to people with conviction histories for over 20 years. We stand here today with all of the advocates to amplify the importance of recognizing homelessness and developing meaningful interventions to change those conditions. When we say Homeless Rights Month, it is not Homeless Rights Month. Homelessness is every day. And people who are homeless need to be honored and recognized as human beings every day. There are 60,000 New Yorkers who are entering shelters, places that are unfit for human beings to frequent, and thousands more languish in the street. As an organization that works with people with conviction histories, we know that in New York State prisons, 50% of the people that are returning back to New York City are entering into shelters. They too wind up being homeless because they'd rather be in the streets than to be in a shelter. We stand with all of the advocates here today, and we will continue to work with those who will amplify this issue and hold those accountable. Because homeless rights is every day, not just a month, but every day. And we thank all of the city council members who stand with us as allies in this work. We will continue to work with you. We will continue to work with the executive of the city, who is the mayor, and to hold them accountable with care, as we would hold all of ourselves accountable with care, to make sure that things change. We thank all of the reporters for coming out and amplifying this really important issue. Thank you.
When I say homeless rights, y'all say what? Homeless rights. Homeless rights. Homeless rights. And so who we have coming up next, ladies and gentlemen, he is someone that cares about homeless rights. He is a city council